Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And on this episode, we're going to look at the lens of your reality. I'm sure there's a lot of things that have happened to you or that you have created that have changed the lens of your reality. So as you listen to this episode, it's almost like you can put on a pair of glasses or lenses and notice the emotion that you want to experience your reality from. Because when you have a different lens of reality, you're going to have a different perception. And this is how you can really create your ideal future and get predictable results. The way you see the world, the lens determines the reality that you create. It's funny, I was making a video. I actually posted a short on YouTube about this. My channel is Create Your Ideal Future, and the link is always in the description. And I was talking about how to get rid of anxiety. However, I wasn't actually talking about anxiety so much. I said, what if you woke up? And usually when you wake up, you have anxiety or something happens and you get anxious throughout the day. So what if you decided to start to make a habit out of looking through your day with a different lens? What if that lens was calm, peace, joy, relaxation? And different people started commenting, and one of them said, it felt like I have been fighting my anxiety for 5 years, fighting it. However, when I listened to your video, watched your video, I'm not reading the exact comment. However, when I listened to this video, I felt like I didn't need to fight the anxiety anymore. I never really looked at it this way. So maybe they put a different lens on and decided to shape their reality. And someone else commented that they thought this concept was really cool. And they said, have you named this the lens theory? And I said, no, I don't have a name. I just made this video to, show people that they can have a different perspective on things. So I'm glad that it helped. So that's where I kind of got this idea to talk about now the lens of reality. So whether or not you have anxiety or stress, or maybe you just want to see more opportunities or more possibilities or new choices, you can use this lens of reality because this is what's going to influence your perception. So that was just one example. However, I was in a meeting just last week and we were talking about how you can really design your ideal reality. And the person teaching us, they brought up a couple really cool points. The first one is there's no excuse to not know what you want. So why did he say this? He said this because what if you could start to research things, take part in things? Let's say you have a goal and you're not even sure how to get there. Well, I'm sure you could start to look through that goal with a different lens. You can start to think about, has anyone gotten this goal that you know? How can you start to research this goal? I mean, what do you do when you go on vacation? You start to research it online, where you want to go, what's the price, where you want to stay, what are things to do there, what's the food like, what's the best time of year to go, what's the weather like, how much money are you going to bring, is it expensive? You want to know all these things, so you start to research it. And you start to look at this place then through a different lens. So imagine instead of saying, I don't know what I want, you research something every day. You were really, really curious. You had a lens of curiosity and started to look at things. do you think that things would be happening more fast or more slowly for you? I know that you know the answer. So the lens of reality, it influences your perception. Now, everyone has a certain lens already. If you think about it, that lens is shaped by your past experiences, your beliefs, your unconscious programming, your unconscious preferences, your values, your memories, emotions, everything. And you could start to change this just by deciding and giving yourself permission to have a different lens. Now, there's a reason that this lens is actually really easy to access, because most people, they're probably thinking, how? How can I access a different lens? You're saying it's so easy. What can I do? Well, if you think about it, our words are really, really powerful. So if I'm to offer you a suggestion, this is how something leads to your reality, and this is how you can create the lens, starting with your language. So when I offer you a suggestion, those suggestions lead to your thoughts. That's how powerful our words are. They can lead to people thinking different things. We can literally install a thought in someone's mind if that's what we want to do. And maybe that's why I say sometimes, I know that you know, and then I deliver a suggestion. So I'm telling you to install this thought in your mind. So those thoughts lead to emotions. So if you have a bad suggestion, bad emotions. Good suggestion, good thoughts, good emotions. That emotion leads to your focus. And your focus then creates your reality. So if you think about it, to change the lens, you can change any of those things. The suggestions you're giving yourself, the thoughts you're giving yourself, the emotions, what you're focusing on. So that's why I say, when you're going on vacation, look at things. When you're focusing on things like this and you're giving your mind things to look forward to and things to consider, your reality starts to change. If you're not really focusing on certain things and things that'll lead to your goals, how do you expect to have a goal be real in your reality? And the good thing is when you start to look at this stuff, your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. So your unconscious mind thinks you're really, really working towards this goal with good emotions. If you have good emotions, your unconscious mind is then going to give you that goal. So let's look at this a bit further. So your suggestions lead to thoughts. So a simple suggestion, a simple comment can shift how you start thinking in your mind. So give yourself good suggestions. Look through a lens of a good suggestion. So how do you do this? You say it the way that you want it. If you want to lose weight, you don't say, I'm not going to eat junk food anymore. You say, I'm going to make healthy food choices. Say it the way you want it. Because when you use the word not or don't, your unconscious mind deletes that word. And so you're actually focused on the thing that you're telling your mind not to focus on. So a single suggestion can really change your mind and change your thinking. Now those thoughts, those lead to emotions. So positive, resourceful emotions versus negative emotions, those can have a totally different lens for you. So as I told in the video about anxiety, I said, what if you had anxiety? Or let's say you have stress. Or think of any problem that you have right now. Any problem. And what do you normally feel? What if you started to feel something different? Ask yourself, what do you want to feel instead? What do you want to do instead? And imagine yourself almost putting on goggles, putting on glasses there, and you start to see this reality from a different lens. Joy, peace, calm, relaxation, confident. What if you're nervous before a big presentation? If you have the lens of confidence on and you're able to access that state of confidence before, then you're going to have a totally different experience as if you went out there and you were totally nervous. Curiosity, excitement, whatever it is. So those emotions are really, really powerful. And those emotions lead to your focus. So emotions tell you how you're directing your attention. So if you think about it, things like stress and fear, they kind of narrow your focus because you're not giving your brain, your mind, the full capacity that it has to work with. Where all the other emotions, calmness, relaxation, confidence, excitement, curiosity, all of those, when you imagine wonderful things, you expand your mind. So when you're nervous, maybe you only notice risks. When you're confident, you see opportunities. So these things are in a nice, consistent thing, and they lead to a consistent result. Suggestions, thoughts, emotions, focus, reality. So in order to create the new reality, you need to change different things of those things. This makes it seem pretty easy and pretty straightforward, doesn't it? So, your focus. What you focus on becomes your experience. Your mind gets you what you focus on 100% of the time, and your mind is way smarter than you think. So your mind is going to filter your reality based on what you're focusing on. So for the example with anxiety, usually someone has anxiety because they're not focusing on what they want. Then they're worried about the future. They have doubts about the future for no reason at all. So those things haven't even happened yet. So if you're focusing on what you want, chances are there's going to be a good suggestion with that, good thoughts, good emotions, and that focus is going to bring what you want in your reality. Luckily, the mind has a buffer, and it doesn't give us everything that we think about all the time because that would be a bit chaotic, don't you think? So the more you focus on what you want, think about it. Ask your mind the question, how much are you actually focusing on what you want? And if that is a really low number, then make sure to change that focus. Ask your mind every single day before you go to sleep, what is it that I can focus on tomorrow that's going to bring me closer to my goal? Or when you wake up, decide, what emotion do you want to focus on for that day that's going to help you focus on what you want? Because anxiety, that comes from fear. Nervousness, all those things get bunched up together. You start worrying, you get doubts. If you decide in the morning, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to have joy, love, peace, excitement, confidence, you're going to have a totally different day. So this lens is really, really powerful because you can change it on any of those things. Suggestions, thoughts, emotions, focus, and that'll all lead to a different reality. So if you want to really reprogram your lens for an ideal future, you need to figure out what is holding you back. And this is going to be something on the inside. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's another negative emotion. Maybe it's a limiting belief that you have. And that is creating that lens for you. Maybe someone thinks they're not good at something. They're not good enough. That suggestion that you're giving yourself is leading to that reality through all those other things that I mentioned. So what is that belief? What do you want instead? What can you learn from that belief? The learning of which will allow you to let go of it easily and effortlessly. And what do you want to believe instead? And the more you ask yourself those questions, what can you learn from it? And what do you want to do or what do you want to feel instead? That will help you create a new lens. So when you create that new lens, all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about things anymore because this new lens becomes a new habit. Now, there's a lot of information out there about, it takes so long for a habit to be installed and all of this. Well, the unconscious mind, it needs repetition for a habit to be installed. So make sure that you're using this lens that you make an effort every single day to use a different lens, the lens that you want, that's going to lead to the reality that you want and the results that you want. So you need to control your focus to design the reality that you want. So if you think about it, you need to be giving yourself good suggestions. You need to be giving yourself good thoughts, good emotions, and you need to be focusing on what you want. Because focusing on success, it shows your mind that you have choices, opportunities, and possibilities. Because I've worked with a lot of people, and usually what happens is they have some sort of negative emotion or limiting belief that they have to get rid of. And this belief has been really embedded in their mind because they've probably thought it for a long time. Usually negative emotions, you have them, they start when you're 0 to 7. Limiting beliefs can come then, before that, or even after that. Something happened, some event happened, usually that led to this limiting belief, this negative emotion. And so if you think about it, you need to then start to focus on a new emotion. Because when you have that limiting belief and you have that negative emotion, your mind is so used to that it doesn't really consider that you have other choices, other opportunities, other possibilities. Like I said earlier, anxiety, fear, stress, all these things, they narrow your focus. You don't get to look out all around you. Your eyes technically have a 360-degree view with your mind. However, when you're focused on those negative emotions, it's almost like you're looking straight ahead and you don't see anything else. So in order to control your focus and have your mind focused on success, you need to notice that you do have other choices. You do have other opportunities. There are plenty of other possibilities. And all those possibilities are your lens of reality that you can start to look through every single day. It's just like when you start to do something, or people often say something like, you never forget to ride a bike. Well, maybe you rode a bike when you were younger. You had so much joy riding a bike all around. I started riding a bike recently. I ride it all over town where I live. And I really started to see how much joy I would get. And yes, you always do remember to ride a bike. And so it's almost like you're giving your mind these simple concepts, these simple things to focus on instead. So once I started riding this bike, I was looking at everything around me. Everything started to change because at first I was just walking, and then you start riding. Then maybe one day you want to take a car or a bus or a boat and go all around, whatever it is. So you have choices, and you'll never forget the lenses that you have, because when you were born, you were limitless. You had a lens of being limitless. You were taught some limitations. You took on different negative emotions because of things that you saw, heard, or other people felt even. You probably felt these things too. However, inside of you is this lens of limitless. Inside of you are all the resources that you need, and you can look through this lens. So that's what you really want to think about here. Think about the suggestions you give yourself. Think about the thoughts that those lead to, the emotions that you have, the focus that this creates, because that is what creates your reality. So what are you going to start to use as your lens? And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day. Use a really good, empowering, and resourceful lens, though, so you install a habit in your mind. Because remember that person earlier, they said, it felt like I was fighting anxiety. And I never looked at it like this, instead, to where I could look through a different lens, where I didn't even have to consider anxiety. It's pretty interesting to think of it like that, isn't it? So ask yourself, what lens are you going to look through? And what are you going to start to explore? What are you going to start to research so you can give your mind something to focus on what you want? Research it. Ask people about it who have done it. This will give your mind the lens that you want to achieve what you want. Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and rate the podcast so it can get into the minds of so many others. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the next episode.